Hi, this is John Cullen. Welcome to another episode of Hypothetically Speaking. This is a special episode. I'm recording this episode on March the 10th, 2025. It's the 5-year anniversary of the day I believe NASA and NORAD went to President Trump and showed him the information that changed everything on March the 11th, tomorrow, 5 years ago. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through the events of March the 10th, 2020, as I believe they occurred. I'm going to show you the model, and we're going to talk about the lead up. In other words, what was happening in the weeks and the days prior to March 10th, 2025. Also, in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at some of the current events, some things that have been taking place in the last 10 days or so. The last time I published something on YouTube was about 2 weeks ago, which was a conversation that I had with Dr. Crystal Heath. In the past 10 days, there's been a lot of things happening in the news that have been somewhat remarkable. One of those things was the expectation that we were going to see a release of Epstein-related content, Epstein files, flight logs, what have you. And so in this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you guys footage from the FBI raid of Epstein Island that included NYPD personnel, apparently. And we'll take a look at that. In this episode, we're also going to be taking a look at another thing that happened in the past 10 days, which was the meeting between Zelensky and President Trump. And that was a pretty big deal. So I'll be sharing with you some flight log information that I have, the unredacted flight logs from Epstein. And then we'll take a look at the full video of the conversation between Zelensky, Trump, and J.D. Vance and break it down and see, who was kind of out of line here. Was it entirely Zelensky? Might J.D. Vance have stepped over the line a little bit? I think it's important to watch the whole thing. It's only 7.5 minutes, and we're going to break it down together. So we're going to do that in this episode. And then after we watch that video, then I'm going to show you the simulation, the model that I recorded on, I think it was April 28th of 2020. So 5 years ago, I had no idea any of this was happening. A very tight circle of people did, apparently, and everything changed overnight. And that's what we're going to take a look at. We're going to look at what was happening in the lead up to March 10th. What do I believe was shown to the president on March the 10th? And then what happened afterwards as a result of what I believe happened. So what happened on March the 11th? This is Hypothetically Speaking. I'm John Cullen. Let's get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to take a look at in this episode is the Epstein story. We were expecting a release from the FBI, DOJ. Pam Bondi was upset, didn't get what she was expecting. I think Kash Patel kind of got, caught off guard here. And I don't know that we've seen anything that's been notable. And so I figured, let's take a look at some of the content that I have and see, how does this compare to what we didn't get from the FBI? So the first thing we're going to take a look at is a video. This is footage that was shot by a guy who I think he went by like Rusty something, and he shot this footage, and we're going to take a look at his footage. He is a captain, I believe, out of St. Thomas, and let's take a look at that footage now. Here we go.
Yes, the same kind of story that seems to come down from long ago. Two friends having coffee together when something flies by their window. It might be out on that lawn, which is wide at least half of the playing field, because there's no explaining what your imagination can make you see and feel. Somebody like me got me hypnotized.
I'm going to show you guys these flight logs in a second.
Meaningless question asked if they've been and gone. I remember a talk about North Carolina in a strange, strange pond.
All right, so here comes the fun part. So this is where we're watching them. So this is FBI and NYPD at Epstein Island, and it looks like they are covering up some iMacs. You see the iMac on the table that's wrapped in orange? I guess these are their evidence envelopes or something like that. So it looks like they're absconding with computers and what have you. It looks to me like I'm looking at an iMac on that table wrapped in like a red evidence envelope, like a cellophane type plastic. So I'm guessing they're wrapping and tagging things as evidence. And so the question for Pam Bondi is, have you seen all this stuff? Like, did they share all of this with you? And if not, why not? Let's continue.
You see, the sides were like glass in the thick of a forest without a road. And if any man's hand ever made that land, then I think it would have showed. And that's why it seems like a dream. They got me hypnotized.
There we go, NYPD. So we have FBI and NYPD on Epstein Island. And a lot of people have been saying, why is the NYPD there? What kind of jurisdiction did they have? Certainly Epstein's townhouse mansion that was on the Upper West Side, I guess, off of Central Park. Yeah, but what are you guys doing in St. Thomas? So Little St. James Island is an island off the coast of St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. Why is the NYPD there if the FBI is there? So to me, again, it's like, why do we need the FBI if the NYPD can go to St. Thomas? And, why is the NYPD in St. Thomas if the FBI is there? It just, I don't know. And does the NYPD have any evidence, or were they just being used to carry stuff around? Like, they called in the NYPD to be the movers, but everything went back to the FBI and the NYPD got nothing? They left there empty-handed? I don't know. Let's watch.
That's right.
So they're all milling around. You got FBI, NYPD milling around, and they're realizing there's a drone outside the window. So now they're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do about this?
Seems like a dream, got me hypnotized. They say there's a place down in Mexico where a man can fly over mountains and hills. And he don't need an airplane or some kind of engine, and he never will. Now you know.
I want you to think about, where are they all staying? Are they overnighting in St. Thomas? What hotel did they stay at? Who paid for that? The taxpayers, of course. A lot of people there, and they got a lot of Home Depot moving boxes, it appears. I guess there's probably a Home Depot on St. Thomas. They found a curtain. They're hanging a curtain up now. So they don't want the drone watching them do what they're doing there. So that's what was going on Little St. James Island a couple years ago when the FBI raided the island. The next thing I want to share with you is a document from, I guess this is from the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. And one of the things that came up in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial was this unredacted flight log. And again, so it's kind of weird. It's like everybody's waiting for this reveal. And we've got a lot of this information from the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to open up this flight log, and we're going to take a look at this together. It goes from 1995 to 2002. And we're going to take a look at some of the names because it's unredacted. And we're going to scroll through it together. Then I'm going to walk you through this transition from the bird flu cover-up with COVID, which is basically Crimson Contagion. And then on March the 10th, the president is introduced to this asteroid extinction level event and basically has 7 weeks. All right, let's take a look at this flight log. What I've got here is the actual document, and it begins in 1995. So all the way up here at the top, we're looking at the date, the year that it took place, which model, the aircraft tail number, and it looks like they're all N908JE for Jeffrey Epstein. N908JE. And a lot of it's Teterboro, so TEB. PBI, Palm Beach. Or no, PBI is Columbus, Ohio. Or West Palm Beach, excuse me. It is Palm Beach. West Palm Beach. Columbus, Ohio is CMH. So you see a lot of Teterboro, a lot of Columbus, CMH, and PBI. And out here on the right side are the names of the passengers. And so we got Jeffrey Epstein quite a bit. We've got a number of names that you're going to see repeatedly. But it's interesting to see some new names. So you'll see Jeffrey Epstein, you'll see Ghislaine Maxwell here. So she's here on this thing. You will see, let's see, Alan and Kathy Greenberg, the Dubins, Selena Dubin, Glenn Dubin, Eva Dubin, the Dubin families. Jeffrey Epstein, the nanny, gets to sign in as nanny. So I wonder who that is. Sophie Biddle. We have here. We've got Ghislaine again. We've got Gwendolyn Beck. And we got Chuck Schume. Now, I don't know if Chuck Schume is a friend of Chuck Schumer's, or it's just Chuck Schumer's name spelled incorrectly, or there's a guy named Chuck Schume. But Chuck Schume, I don't know, whatever. Sounds a little bit like Chuck Schumer. You got a guy named David Anton, Ghislaine Maxwell again, Deborah maybe came on the plane, Jeff Epstein, Ghislaine, Jeff, Sharon Reynolds, Jim Kane and Patricia Kane and Allison Kane, Carve DeWhitey, Sophie Biddle again, Jim Kane again, Patricia Kane, Allison Kane again, Jeff Epstein, Just going to keep going through this until we see some of the more interesting names. Eva Dubin, Selena Dubin. Now this is all the way back. This is like the oldest stuff here in this list. Pamela Johanioff. I'm sure I'm not getting that right. And you're going to see some interesting names. There's Tiffany, Allison, Cherie, Anki, Allison, Cherie, Salona, Empty, Inspection, Andy, Mandy, and Ralph. Okay, Felicia Taylor, David Rothman, Jeffrey Epstein, Selena Middlefart. Come on. Robin Plant. A couple times. Robin Plant, Jeff Epstein, John Glenn. Look at that. John Glenn. Didier Kazamatuchek, Kazal Dumech, Ira Zikerman, Didier Kazadumich again, a couple times. Joel Pashkow, Andy Stewart, Leslie Gelb, Brian Mathis, couple interesting fun names here. There's Didier again. There's Selena Dubin again, Eva Dubin again. Jeff Shantz. Jeff. Nicely done, Jeff. Jeff Shantz got a ride a couple times. Jeff Shantz is on here. I don't know who Jeff Shantz is, but I'm sure he does. David Roth. Uh-oh. David Roth. Say it isn't so, David Lee. I hope that's not you, bro. We got a couple ants here. We got illegible, and we got a baby. So that's good. We have illegible, a couple of ants, and a baby. We got Gwendolyn Beck. I think we've seen her before already. Jeff Epstein, Patricia Kane, Jimmy Kane, Eva Dubin, Selena Dubin. Seems like they were spending a lot of time together. Robin Plant is here. Robin Plant, not Robert. Nathan Mirbold. I don't think that's how you spell it. It's close enough, though. We know who that is. And Alan Dershowitz. Hello. There's Alan Dershowitz. Where did Alan Dershowitz and Nathan Mirvold go? And from Titusville, Florida to Newark. So they were going from Florida to Newark. Selena Middlefart again. There's Ghislaine Maxwell and Amanda and Claire Hazel Eve. Jeffrey Epstein. No passengers. Robin Plant. Male. We've got a male. We got one dude. Ben Forrester, Lynn Forrester, Jeffrey Epstein, Selena Middlefart again. We got Bob, Allison, Sophie Biddle, Gary Curvey, Donna. Lots of fun names. Pamela Stevens. She was there. Joel Pashkow again. He's getting a couple rides. Couple folks here. Didier, Deidre, Mandy, Katharina, Lynn, maybe. Nanny, two nannies. Gwendolyn Beck, again, Felicia Taylor, Mandy, Lisa, another dude named Mal, Selena Middlefart, one more time. Gotta love Selena. She's there again. Selena, there's Didier again. Didier Kazal Dumech. Heather Mann, Lynn Forrester. Heather Mann again. Paula Epstein. Ha. Is that his sister? Paula Epstein? Who is Paula Epstein? Does Jeffrey Epstein have a surviving sister that we haven't talked about? Let's see. Who else do we have here of interest? Looking for names that jump off the page. No passengers. Steve Tuckerman. Judy Tuckerman. And Yahura Kopel. And Zipporah Koppel? Like Ted Koppel? Is Zipporah and Yahura Koppel Ted Koppel's, I don't know, uncle, aunt, mommy, daddy, kids, I don't know. Let's keep going. Claire Hazel Eva, Dougley Schudel, Pascal, Gabrielle, Emmy Taylor, female. Emmy Taylor, Jordan Dubin, Selena Dubin. Now, I'm barely scratching the surface. I'm like at page 13, 14, 15 here, 17. And we've got 116 pages of names. So we saw Nathan Myhrvold. We saw Dershowitz. Let's see who else. Mandy Ellison. Alan Dershowitz again. Warren Spector. Oh. All right, so Warren Spector Was it Bear Stearns? Warren Spector, this is interesting. Warren Spector was the president, I think, of Bear Stearns when Bear Stearns imploded. And he's a very interesting character. And the fact that he was flying with Jeffrey, because Jeffrey worked at Bear Stearns. That's kind of where he cut his teeth, I guess. And they went from Teterboro to West Palm Beach. So Warren Spector, very interesting cat. From Bear Stearns, former, I think, president of Bear Stearns. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. Mandy Ellison again. Doug Schotel, Melinda Luntz. Paul Mellon. Paul Mellon. Is that like Mellon Banking? I don't know. The Mellon Bank? I don't know. Oliver Sacks. Look at that. Oliver Sacks. Huh. I'll have to send him a tweet. Let's see. Where did he go? Oliver Sacks. Bedford, Massachusetts. Bedford and Teterboro. So they're doing science-y stuff with him. Boy, oh boy, what a honeypot this was. Mandy Lang again. Coco Brown. There's Coco. I don't know who Coco Brown is, but somebody does. There's a couple. There's the nanny again. Robin, Stephen, nanny. Sherry Crape. Again, let's see, Mandy Ellison again. Shannon Healy. Alberto Pinto. We have Jeff Epstein, Mandy Ellison. Melanie Starvez. Lynn Fontanella. Ralph Ellison. We got a lot of Ellisons making the trip now. Couple more people. Adam Perry Lang. I don't know if you guys know who that is. I'm not a people person, so I'm not like up on who's who. You guys know that. I'm not good at this people stuff. But when it comes to a log like this, you know, how can you not look, right? You got to check this out. There's Larry Summers. Hey, La, where were you going? Let's see. Aspen, Colorado to Washington, D.C. So Larry Summers was flying around with Jeffrey Epstein. There you go. Enough said on that one. Larry. Let's see what else we got. Alan Dershowitz again. Where'd you go, Alan? Bedford, Mass. Let's see. Guylaine, Maxwell, Francois Varinia. Who the hell is Francois? They just put two females, right? Two females and a nanny. We got two ladies, I don't know. Tiffany Gramza, Alberto Pinto, Linda Pinto, Philippe Mounier, Francois Varinia, the Pintos again, the Varinias again, Mounier again, Dershowitz again. Here's Dersh. Where'd you go, Alan? Martha's Vineyard, Teterboro to Martha's Vineyard. That's nice. Who'd you stay with when you got there? Let's see what else we have. Sometimes it's fun just to skip to the end and see like who they hiding on the last page of this thing. You got some juicy names so far, though. So far it's been interesting. Let's skip down. Larry Morrison. Larry Visosky's the pilot, right? Nadia Marcinkova, that's that stunning blonde that was also, I think, a pilot. Bill Murphy is a pilot. So here they're logging. This is a couple years later now. This is, I think this is 2005. Yeah, this is 2005 logs. And now they're doing more detail. So Nadia Marcinkova, Larry Morrison, Larry Visosky. But we got Summers, we got Larry Summers, and that's a good find. There he is, Larry Summers again. So Larry Summers, West Bedford, Westchester to HPN. Depart Bedford to Westchester. They're flying from Bedford, Massachusetts to Westchester. You guys can't take a car, you lazy. Alan Resnick. What's he doing? Sandy Berger. Sarah Kellen. Tatiana Kovalina. Okay, Sarah Kellen. And Andrea Mitrovich. Crystal Wash. Igor Zinoviev. Eligible. Bill Hammond. Adriana Musinska. Igor Zinoviev. Valsen Kotrin. Mark Tagoya. Alan Dershowitz. Bedford to Teterboro. These guys are going back and forth. What are they doing up there? And then look at all these, what's all this? All these question marks. This is all like blank. So what is that about? You just get to say, I can't read it, so we're not going to enter it? That's pretty convenient, isn't it? So the names here, I mean, this is just unredacted, 100 and something pages of stuff here. And we've already found some pretty damning names. I've got the Black Book also. The Black Book shows Michael Bloomberg. Who else we have in there? A whole bunch of big names, crazy names. Naomi Campbell. I mean, just crazy stuff. All right, let's go to the next thing we're going to cover in this presentation. And that is going to be the conversation between Trump and Zelensky. So Trump and Zelensky met recently, and the thing went off the rails. And so I've got the video. It's 7.5 minutes long. And I think watching it together and just kind of breaking it down and who said what and then who said what, and watching the expressions and whatever, I think it's going to be very telling. I didn't see anyone play the whole thing through. This is really the first time I saw the whole thing, the whole 7.5 minute aspect of this conversation. And I think you guys are going to find this fascinating. So let's take a look at this.
He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President,
Whoa. All right, so right out of the gate here, I'm looking at this as Zelensky said, kind of politely, what are you talking about? What kind of diplomacy? This guy's killing us. Let's watch this again. This is kind of interesting here. One more time.
He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD?
Now that to me is a reasonable question. His tone, his demeanor is reasonable. J.D. Vance is going to start pointing his finger at him. That's the president of Ukraine. So when we talk about disrespect, I don't know. Now, keep in mind, I am not a Zelensky sympathizer in any way. I'm just trying to break down what happened in the meeting and kind of who got aggressive first. So to me, the way Zelensky has stated this, seems kind of reasonable, and he's not being that antagonistic. He's saying to him, we signed a deal. It was supposed to be an exchange of prisoners. We released the Russian guys, and they didn't release any of the Ukrainian guys. Now, is J.D. Vance going to dispute that? Let's listen.
JD, you are speaking about. What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
So J.D. Vance is telling Zelensky what he should be doing. You should be thanking the president. And he's pointing his finger at the guy. And he's the vice president, and Zelensky's the president of Ukraine. So, again, one more time, let's watch this. I mean, he asks him a question, and J.D. Vance starts pointing his finger, lecturing him, and talking over him. Doesn't let him respond. Watch this.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to
He's talking over him. He's holding his hands up. He's silencing him. He's dismissing him. Let's watch.
come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to...
Have you ever been to the Ukraine? That you know what you're talking about. So J.D. Vance says, you are dragging people out to serve. You're dragging them out of their houses or whatever, work to serve. And Zelensky says, have you been to the Ukraine? Have you come to visit? Do you know what have you seen this?
I have been to...
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office?
Now, just to be clear, the United States hasn't met any of its recruiting targets over since last 7 years. Frank Muth, who was in charge of OPM SANG, was then put in charge of recruiting for the U.S. Army and failed miserably and ends up retiring. I mean, we haven't met our recruiting either. So, again, J.D. Vance pointing his finger and saying, you can't, telling him what's going on. I'm not sure who's being more disrespectful here in this scenario. One more time, let's watch this.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions.
So J.D. Vance just accused him of attacking the administration. And let's go back to the beginning to what did Zelensky say?
He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President,
So he's asking him a question and then talking over him as he's attempting to answer, and he's pointing his fingers at him as he's doing it. Strikes me that J.D. Vance, I wouldn't bring him to a meeting with Russia. I'll leave it at that.
attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country.
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position.
So now you're seeing that Trump's patience with Zelensky is very short. And this is interesting. It's like, it seems like there's a fair amount of anger here. And the question would be, well, why might that be? The two of them met in New York back in September of 2024, before the election. After Butler, before the election, they met at Trump Tower. Zelensky was in New York for a United Nations meeting, G20, something like that, I don't know. There was something at the United Nations. He was in New York. They met at Trump Tower back in September. So, for some reason, Trump is very angry here. And let's continue. Well, let's hear what Trump says.
To dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very
You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the
the
cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing
But
cards.
right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
what do you
You're
think about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's
with
backed
all respect to
you
your
far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should
Have
have.
you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of
are you
America
speaking about?
and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country is
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this.
I...
You have a damn
We-
good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone.
All right, so again, J.D. Vance lecturing, talking down to the president of Ukraine seems like a real bad move to me. But something comes up here, which is that Zelensky went to Pennsylvania. And that's an interesting twist. And I don't know if Trump knew this, or he kind of tilts his head like, that's interesting. So watch this.
Appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
To the country, this country,
I'm
that's
with
back
all
to
respect to
you,
your
far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting, have
today.
you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October.
Interesting. You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. And again, not sure if Trump knew this, but the fact that J.D. Vance is lecturing him and pointing at him from a foreign policy standpoint, this is, to me, this is a disaster, and it's embarrassing for us in the way that J.D. Vance is carrying himself. So that's my opinion. But the fact that he mentions this visit to Pennsylvania is very interesting.
Should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting, have
today.
you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country is
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn
We-
good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid
thank you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment.
You
and
voted
you
for
men
your
are brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
Yes. What about
if,
West
if
Virginia?
you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of
except
times
that
thank
there,
you
except
to
that,
American people.
except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand,
over
sir.
there. I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You
I'm-
don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running low
I know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't, please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I wanted this. Look. If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war. But
You're
I
saying
said,
you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
that
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was
wasn't
with
with you.
a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your,
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry, here.
It's going to be a tough deal to make,
Um,
because the attitudes have to change.
what if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks, what do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you
but
saying?
what if
She's asking, what if Russia
Putin
breaks the ceasefire?
for the-
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
But they have
Okay?
weapons.
What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me.
But all-
Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia, the 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right. We'll see what we can do about putting it together. Thank you.
Guys, come on, let's go.
We'll see. I don't know.
All right, guys, come on. Wait,
So there you go. I thought that was interesting, and some of the comments that were made there, the body language, the intensity, there might be more at play here than any of us realize. All right, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is the lead up to March 10th. In other words, what was happening with COVID and what happened March 11th. So 5 years ago tomorrow, the WHO declares a global pandemic. So what we're going to do now is take a look at sort of this lead up, the build up to it, and what was happening on March the 10th. Slide you see here is the first iteration that I have of the Johns Hopkins map. This was an image from March the 6th of 2020. So this would have been 4 days earlier, 5 years ago. And on that day, there were 14 people in the United States that, according to the system, had died with SARS-CoV-2 infection. And this was a presentation that we're going to look at that was being given by a woman named Lauren Gardner. And she is the woman at Johns Hopkins. I think she's an associate professor. And she's the one who was chartered with building the map of the pandemic. And so we're going to listen to a video from her in just a moment and see what she had to say. But this leads us to what ends up happening in the next couple days. So we're going to listen to Lauren Gardner, and then we're going to look at the situation reports, the March 10th, March 11th situation reports. But this was March the 6th. March the 6th, Lauren Gardner presents, I think, to Congress, and she's showing them the map, the Johns Hopkins map. So let's listen to what Lauren Gardner had to say and see if we can learn anything from that.
My name's Lauren Gardner. I'm an associate professor at the Civil and Systems Engineering Department at Johns Hopkins University. I'm leading the efforts behind the COVID dashboard that most of you are probably aware of. So I just am here to talk through a little bit about how this dashboard works, the features of it, and a bit about the data collection process behind it and some of the user stats as well. So what we're doing is we're tracking total cumulative confirmed cases of COVID all around the world. And we have here in this now global view, the red circles represent the total number of reported confirmed cases to date by region. And the region, the spatial resolution of the regions that we're reporting on differs depending on where we are in the world. So for instance, in China, we're reporting at the province level, at the US at the county level, Australia and Canada at the city level, and the rest of the world at the country level for right now. Over here on the left is a list of all the countries, and on the right is the deaths and recovered, which is we're also reporting, and you can see the actual numbers by region. You can click on a location.
All right, so let's just go back a second. So on this day, March the 6th, 2020, there are 3,460 people dead on Earth with SARS-CoV-2. Most of those people are in China, in Hubei, in Wuhan. The second largest is Italy. But Italy had 3 million cases of influenza, and they're telling us that there's 197 COVID deaths in Italy. Iran, 134 it looks like. South Korea, 42. 22 deaths somewhere, mainland China, Henan. And that's it. Like, Hong Kong's not on the screen. Shanghai's not on, didn't make the cut. So these are the most dead in the world as of March the 6th, 2020. Most of it is in China, but what the map is showing is cases. Now, the thing that's weird is we don't have any test kits, so I'm not sure how she knows about all these cases.
Location, and it zooms into it on the map, and you also here can highlight.
All right, so now she clicked on the United States, and what it's showing you is there's 14 people dead, 12 of whom are in Washington. Okay, near where Microsoft's headquarters are. And then there's one in California, one in Snohomish, Washington, and one in Kings County, Washington. So 13 of the 14 deaths are in Washington, and one is in California. And we don't have any test kits. So I'm not sure how they're determining that these are SARS-CoV-2 infections, but that'll just remain a mystery. So I just kind of wanted to set the stage here with this and her presentation. This is Lauren Gardner from Johns Hopkins. She's the one who was chartered with building this thing. And again, in the days leading up to the declaration of a global pandemic or what have you, there just weren't that many people dead with SARS-CoV-2. What you're looking at now is the SITREP report. The SITREP report comes from the WHO, and it tells us, what's the situation. Now, this is a situation as of tomorrow, March the 11th. So as of tomorrow, March the 11th, there's 3,162 people dead in China, and there are 1,130 deaths elsewhere. But there's not 10 dead in Hong Kong, and there's not 10 dead in Shanghai, and there's not 10 dead in Beijing. So how badly is this thing spreading through China? But the map sure has a lot of red dots on it. So it almost seems like they're preparing everybody to panic, but the panic hasn't been official yet. Now, the thing to keep in mind is what's been actually happening in the United States is that from the week, it says down here, week 1, down on the bottom, we go from 50, 51, 52 to 1 on the chart. And then when it gets to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, though, that's week number 1, week number 2, week number 3 of 2020. So week number 1 is the first week in January. Week number 2 is the second week in January, and so forth. So what you're looking at here is the first 4 weeks, that's January. Every single week in January 2020, more than 4,000 people died in the United States from influenza and pneumonia. There was no COVID. You're barely perceptible down at the bottom, the COVID deaths. COVID deaths don't really kick in to the second to last week in March after the president has made the declaration. All right, so when the president makes the declaration, which will be March 13th, 3 days from now, 5 years ago, there's not 50 people dead in the United States. Nobody's dead in New York. Nobody's dead in Florida. Nobody's dead in Texas. But there's 4,000 people dying every week from influenza. So when the president signs the deal with Moderna, it's January 13th. It's the end of the second week. He's already got over 8,000 people dead with influenza in 2 weeks since New Year's Day. So it's been building and building and building, and now he's got 4,000 people dying a week every week. Pretty bad. This is going on every week. January, February, March, right up until March the 10th. 4,000 a week, 4,200, 4,300 every week. And then on March the 10th, today, 5 years ago, NORAD and NASA, I believe, met with the president and showed him this, or something similar to this, which is a model of about 40 asteroids converging with Earth. I believe they went to the president and said, "Sir, yes, we've got this pandemic thing and the bird flu and the cover-up and crimson contagion, sir, but we got another problem. And the other problem is this." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, we got to show you this." So despite the fact that they were kind of set up to cover up the bird flu outbreak, this asteroid thing just comes along out of the blue. Like, in other words, if we look at the numbers from the WHO and we look at how many people were dead where, outside of Hubei, which is where we know there's this massive bird flu outbreak, there's no city in China with more than 22 dead. Henan has 22 dead. That's it. Heilongjiang has 13. And the total for China is 3,162. There's Shanghai with 3. So you got Shanghai with 3, Beijing with 8. There's just not big numbers here. And then you start looking at the other countries, and you look at how many people have died in these other countries. And Korea had 60 dead. 60 people in Korea. Italy, 631, and I doubt that. France, 33. Spain, 36. Germany, 2. Switzerland, 3. Netherlands, 4. UK, 6. Why would you declare a global pandemic if there's 60 people dead in Korea? And there's this bird flu thing that's killing 4,000 people a week in the United States? So 4,000 people in the U.S. are dying every week. And you're worried about 60 dead in Korea? Why? That doesn't make sense. There's more people dying every week in the United States, every week, than have died total from COVID. It's kind of weird. In China, right? So there's more people dying each week, 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, in the USA than have died total from COVID in China. That's why a declaration of a global pandemic on March 11th makes no sense. And it's why this map is highly deceptive, because it's showing you cases and there's no test kits. And it's all red. There's no yellow. There's no green. There's no country that's lit up green because everything's okay. Like Vietnam, nobody's dead. Shouldn't Vietnam be green if nobody's dead? Shouldn't Laos be green if there's no one dead? This was configured to deceive. Now, that the people configuring it know they were working for the CIA? I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. But this is deceptive. And what they're showing the president is what I'm going to show you now. Let me run the model, and I'll show you what on March the 10th, 2020, 5 years ago today, they showed the president most likely something just like this. And this is why the WHO declares a pandemic the very next day.
Thank you. Thank you, Tariq. Good afternoon, everybody. In the past 2 weeks, the number of cases of COVID-19 outside China has increased 13-fold, and the number of affected countries has tripled. There are now more than 118,000 cases in 114 countries, and 4,291 people have lost their lives. Thousands more are fighting for their lives in hospitals. In the days and weeks ahead, we expect to see the number of cases, the number of deaths, and the number of affected countries climb even higher. WHO has been assessing this outbreak around the clock, and we're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of inaction. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic. Pandemic is not a word to use lightly or carelessly. It's a word that, if misused, can cause unreasonable fear or unjustified acceptance that the fight is over, leading to unnecessary suffering and death. Describing the situation as a pandemic does not change WHO's assessment of the threat posed by the virus. It doesn't change what WHO is doing, and it doesn't change what countries should do.
So this is the model that I recorded at the Sky Live. We've got about 50 or 60 asteroids here. The green letters on the left side of the screen are the asteroids you see on the screen in white. They appear as white dots with magenta trajectories or ephemera. And then the blue dot in the middle there is Earth. And what the model is showing is that all these asteroids are kind of converging with Earth on April 28th and 29th. And there's just a whole bunch of them that are doing it. There's a couple that are not, but there's a whole bunch of asteroids are all coming together in what appears to be like a gravitational vortex, like everything's just zoom coming together all at once. And the date of this is April 27th, 28th, 29th of 2020. What's interesting is that the field hospitals were built and were at the ready as of April 20th, and were then decommissioned 10 days later. So they stood from April 20th to April 30th, and on May the 1st, we started decommissioning the field hospital. So this is the convergence. This is all the asteroids coming together on or about April 27th, 28th, 29th, and a couple of these are huge. One of them's 2.5 miles across. It's a planet-killing asteroid. I mean, it would absolutely wipe us out if it hit the planet. But there's just a whole bunch of them, and they're all coming in at the same time. And we're not very good at tracking them in advance. So if we can see 30 or 40 coming, it means there might be 50 or 60 coming, and we just don't see the others. And so preparing field hospitals for an event like this actually is somewhat prudent, right? So the action of saying, all right, well, then let's build field hospitals, let's hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst, is about the best we could do. After this, we have DART, the double asteroid redirection test. We send something up and try and smash it into an asteroid. But at this time, there is no defense. There's no way to, make this not happen. So people said, did we do anything? The Space Force? No. This is 40 asteroids converging on Earth. Now, might the new Iron Dome, Golden Dome strategy be to be able to shoot down, potentially, asteroids on their way in? Sure could be. But this is the footage that I shared with Laura Ingram on that weekend, April 28th. I didn't realize we were still kind of in the midst of it. I thought we had the all clear. But when I shared it with her, it was kind of the day of when it was like the ELE day was the day I was showing this to Laura Ingram. It was April 28th of 2020. This is it. They show this to the president, and the president says, all right, what do we do? And what they say to the president is, well, we have a plan for this. Like, believe it or not, there's a plan. It's called the National, NEO plan or something like that. And we roll this thing out when something like this happens. And the president says, all right, and do what you got to do. So they start deploying the field hospitals, but they don't want to tell everybody that they're deploying field hospitals for a potential extinction level event. And the COVID cover-up thing is already underway. In other words, they've already got the map. They've already got, they're already ready to kind of con people with the bird flu COVID thing. Somebody comes up with the idea, just tell everybody the field hospitals are for the virus. Just tell everybody we're building field hospitals for the virus. They don't need to know. Just who's going to know the difference? And that's what they do.
We are in a war against an invisible enemy.
Normally, the BCEC is a busy place in April, but those events were canceled weeks ago. But now that the city and the state is expecting a major surge in April, they're building a 1,000-bed hospital in 4 days.
Chicago is transforming a convention centre into a makeshift healthcare facility over concerns of a surge in infections.
Getting a first look inside the field hospitals here at the Rhode Island Convention Center and the old Citizens Bank location in Cranston.
Eyewitness News reporter Logan Wilbur has more on the 1,000 extra hospital beds being prepared for Rhode Islanders.
As we speak, a mad dash is underway inside the TCF Center to convert it into a field hospital to treat coronavirus patients.
Our first look inside since FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers got to work building what could end up being a 900-bed facility. Victor Williams got to go inside. Really fascinating and impressive how quickly this is happening, Victor.
We had a lot of rumors about was the military taking over Seattle? The answer is no. They're here to help.
300 soldiers will soon transform the CenturyLink Event Center into a fully functioning hospital with nearly 150 beds, surgeons, even a pharmacy on site.
Well, Miami-Dade County has been and is the hot spot in the state with more cases than any other county. So the new Miami Beach Convention Center is being transformed into a field hospital. CBS 4's Jessica Vallejo is there live with more details. Jessica, good morning.
But this is what it looks like now. The floor filled with beds that could be used for patients if Philly's hospitals get a surge of coronavirus patients.
Essentially, it's a field hospital.
Hospitals in the region are very busy but are not overwhelmed with patients. Beds remain open. Now that means many field hospitals like the one set up at the Leah Core Center have not been called to duty just yet. But as Eyewitness News reporter Dan Koob has found, officials say it's still best to be ready. Dan's on Temple's campus this evening in North Philly. Dan?
Yuki, turning the Liacouras Center into a field hospital was a preemptive move by the city in order to take care of its citizens. Now, 2 days after reopening as a COVID site, the Liacouras Center has yet to see a single patient.
Well, Francis and Elliot, this facility here, this field hospital at the Miami Beach Convention Center, is scheduled to be ready in less than 2 weeks. Now, there are 2 others in Miami-Dade, 1 in Broward. However, state and local leaders say even though they have these field hospitals, at least right now, they are not needed.
In just 3 weeks, a field hospital will be placed here at the Miami Beach Convention Center.
Once they decide they're going to do it, they very quickly build it, and then they let it sit there and hope that it's not going to be used.
The Miami Beach mayor spoke to NBC6 before the decision was made, but after the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers looked at the facility.
It's from 250 to 2,000 different beds.
The size will be estimated based on the perceived need as officials everywhere continue to respond to this COVID-19 health crisis. The field hospital would be used to treat people who don't have the virus if the hospitals are overrun.
Now from CBS 2 News, this is a special report.
The Maryland National Guard is working on setting up a field hospital at the Baltimore Convention Center. There will be 250 beds to treat coronavirus patients. The University of Maryland Medical System and Johns Hopkins Medicine are jointly running the site.
Now, the Maryland National Guard also set up tents for treatment at MedStar Union Memorial and MedStar Good Samaritan hospitals, just in case there is an overflow of COVID-19 patients. Now, General Janine Burkhead tells us they're treating this pandemic similar to a
As we speak, preparations are being made at the Morial Convention Center to convert it into a giant field hospital if it's needed for anticipated overflow of coronavirus patients. Mike Perlstein reports.
Yes, I'm here at the Ernest N. Morial Convention Center, where the plan is to turn this into a giant field hospital. Now, they're planning for the worst case scenario, but obviously hoping for the best case, where it is of limited use or hopefully no use at all.
Now more on several field hospitals going up in our area to deal with the outbreak. Some of the locations include Atlantic City, Delaware County, and North Philadelphia. In just hours, Sacramento Sleep Train Arena will open as a coronavirus field hospital. These 400 beds are now ready to accept patients. Tonight, ABC 10's Giacomo Luca is at the arena with a look at what it will all mean for people living nearby.
Meant to help with a potential surge in coronavirus patients if California hospitals get overwhelmed.
It's maybe about a dozen white tents. This to be like this is just unreal. It's scary. It's terrifying. I'm scared, you know.
We see a hospital with tents. The hospitals are packed, so people are volunteering to make hospitals in tents so people will have room to still survive.
Setting up for a potential coronavirus surge that's happening right now, members of Connecticut's National Guard are turning a college field house into a field hospital. Channel 3 New Haven Bureau Chief Matt McFarland is live with our mobile newsroom on the Southern Connecticut State University campus. Matt?
No, Kara, less than 24 hours ago, this was an empty gymnasium, basically a field house that had nobody in it. Now you can take a look for yourself and see this is a mobile hospital here at Southern Connecticut State University. Now,
But as of March 12th, they consider this, not really a big threat, not much happening. 36 deaths as of March 12th. That's according to the CDC. So March 13th, 3 days from now, 5 years ago, the president will declare a national emergency. And on that day, there are not 43 dead in the United States with COVID. No one is dead in New York. No one is dead in Florida. No one is dead in Texas. And he's declaring a national emergency. And they close the doors to Cheyenne Mountain.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Two very big words. The action I am taking will open up access to up to $50 billion.
37 people dead in Washington, 4 dead in California, 1 in New Jersey, 1 in South Dakota. And he declared a national emergency. So the thing that makes this very awkward is that this asteroid thing is like a matter of record. In other words, when I show this to you, this is NASA data. This is, if the ephemera is tracked, it's in the system, it's logged. This is not a theory. I don't think this happened. This happened. I think the hospitals were for this because they only stood for 10 days. And they kept saying these are not for COVID patients. This is in case the hospital system overflows and can't handle it. And we had incident command centers inside these field hospitals. So on this day, March the 10th of 2020, everything changes. They show this to the president. And now tomorrow, March the 11th, the WHO is going to declare a global pandemic. Let's watch a video that was compiled that shows sort of the lead up until March the 10th and how everything changes overnight on March the 11th. Let's take a look at that now.
Viral pneumonia has hit central China's Wuhan city. Authorities have reported 27 cases in total.
It's a new type of coronavirus.
Now, the first guy said viral pneumonia. And this chick is introducing this notion of it's a new type of coronavirus. But we already know that there's this massive bird flu outbreak underway in China. So when you see something like this, you have to ask yourself, well, who's really producing this? How are they shifting from a 2,100% increase in cases of influenza to all of a sudden they're talking about this new coronavirus on January 9th? It was only identified on January 9th. Nobody's dead yet. Why would you even think there was a novel virus? You got a 2,100% increase in influenza cases, and all of a sudden, one of those people you think has something different? Why? Why were they presenting differently that you would think they had something other than what all those other people had? So when I see this type of broadcast, this is Mockingbird. This is not legit. Watch.
A mystery virus they'd hoped to contain, but one we now know can jump from human to human.
It's one person coming in from China, and we have it.
All right, so on January 22nd of 2020, there are only 9 people dead in the world from COVID. January 22nd. 9 people in the world have died with SARS-CoV-2. But President Trump already ordered vaccines from Moderna on January 13th, 9 days earlier. Why doesn't he mention that? Why doesn't he tell the CNBC guy, dude, I ordered vaccines 9 days ago. Chill out. All right, I gave Moderna the order Relax. We're going to have the vaccines. Don't worry about it. There's not even 10 people dead on Earth yet, and 2 weeks ago I ordered vaccines from Moderna. Why doesn't he tell them that? There's 9 people dead as this interview is taking place here, January 22nd. 9 dead on Earth.
Under control, it's going to be just fine.
It seemed like this was an issue contained to China.
The city at the center of the outbreak in China and 2 others going on lockdown.
The risk is low in the United States. The risk is low.
So at least 565 people are dead and more than 28,000 infected with coronavirus around the world. That's if the Chinese are telling the truth.
Should we have been more aggressive with China and put their feet to the fire? I mean, obviously, history has told us that the president was not interested in doing.
Now, what does that mean? Because we know from the WHO that they posted the genetic sequence to SARS-CoV-2 the same day the first guy died, January the 11th. So it's identified January 9th. And on January 11th, we have the first death, and they post it to GenBank. How much sooner did he want it? There's 41 cases and 1 guy's dead. They post it to GenBank, and he's not happy with that? Why would you want it any earlier if nobody died from it? Why would you need it? Huh. Is Dr. Fauci acting?
I had a great conversation last night with President Xi.
I really believe they are going to have it under control fairly soon. You know,
All right. This is really telling. Trump says in April it warms up and it goes away. He doesn't really want to have to do this whole COVID cover-up thing. He's hoping the bird flu, which we've had waves. This is the thing. It's had waves. It does go away. It does recede. There were 5 waves in China, then 7 waves and 9 waves by the time we get to 2020. So he knows it comes and goes in waves, and he's saying it goes away. Everybody calm down. He doesn't want to play this whole cover-up card if he doesn't have to.
Supposedly it dies with the hotter weather.
The Centers for Disease Control says the coronavirus is going to spread in the United States, but the White House today said that it's contained.
Our country couldn't accept or would.
Now, this is interesting because now you're seeing how the president's trying to downplay the COVID thing, but there's a circle of people around him that's trying to use it against him. All right, we now know Bill Barr was a Judas, a Benedict Arnold type guy. We know that there's a lot of people like that in the administration. So Trump knows the truth. Trump's been briefed by the Pentagon. He knows all about the bird flu in China. He knows exactly what's going on. This is now we're coming up on this March 10th, March 11th transition. And there's all, so you heard Jake Tapper from CNN say, or wherever the hell he works, CNBC, I don't know where he works, I don't really care. Jake Tapper says, the White House says this, but the CDC says that. And they're building all this controversy here. Trump knows exactly what's going on. He knows exactly what's going on.
Not accept the implications of what we were finding.
1 person with coronavirus in King County, Washington State, has died.
9 Americans now have died.
11 people have died from coronavirus.
Tonight, the first containment zone here in America within a 1-mile radius in the New York suburb of New Rochelle.
And then suddenly here it was in our own community.
Here's what's making headlines on this March 11th.
Good morning on this Wednesday, March 11th.
Wednesday, March 11th.
Hope you guys are exhaling, taking a minute for yourselves in the midst of all the chaos and confusion.
I just looked at my notes from that day, and it was a most unusual day. I was testifying before the House Energy and Commerce Oversight and Reform hearing, and during that hearing, I said,
we will see more cases, and things will get worse than they are right now. How much worse we'll get will depend on our ability to do 2 things: to contain the influx of people who are infected coming from the outside, and the ability to contain and mitigate within our own country. Bottom line, it's going to get worse.
I had to say it because it was the truth.
On March 11th, it became real for the entire country.
That's just when so many people just said, it's time to take this very seriously.
March the 11th. Why? Why do we start taking it seriously March 11th? There's still not 5 dead in Hong Kong. Nobody's dead in New York. Nobody's dead in Florida. Nobody's dead in Texas. Why are we taking it seriously all of a sudden March 11th? What the hell happened?
Yo, this is more serious than I thought it was.
March 11th.
Whoa. Why? Why, Mr. Stephen Smith? Why, Mr. Pick a Fight with Everybody? Why is it more serious as of March the 11th? Who phoned you guys? What happened? All of a sudden, March the 11th, this is super serious? What the hell happened?
This is more serious than I thought it was.
March 11th. We knew that the WHO were going to call it a pandemic.
COVID-19. March 11th. We knew the WHO was going to call it a pandemic, says Olivia.
That the WHO were going to call it a pandemic.
COVID-19 can... Now, you remember her. She testified against Trump, right, during one of these impeachment hearings. Right? This is Olivia Troya. She testified against Trump at one of these hearings or whatever. So she says, we know that the WHO is going to declare it a pandemic. Why? We just have 500 die in Shanghai, or 1,600 are dead in Beijing, or why are we now declaring it a pandemic on March 11th? What happened?
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Why? Based on what? What happened that we're going to call this a global pandemic? And what happened where? Where did it happen?
The president was initially going to do the press conference, but then we were told that the president would be doing the address, and it just kept getting pushed, and it eventually turns into an Oval address that night.
To keep new cases from entering our shores.
Whoa. So now on March the 11th, he does an Oval Office address? This is like a fireside chat thing? To all of America? 2 days ago, he's like, yeah, it goes away in April. And now we're having a fireside chat with the president on March the 11th, the day the WHO declares a global pandemic, and there's not 5 dead in Hong Kong, not 10 dead in Shanghai, not 10 dead in Beijing. No one's dead in New York. No one's dead in Texas. No one's dead in Florida. So what the hell is this all about?
We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
That headline struck me as just a stunning move.
He's now taking it seriously. He's hit this inflection point.
You go home and you start reading and you read the newspaper and you see the TV and you're like, oh my God, this is really happening.
We are hearing that they're going to make an announcement soon that this game is not being...
I'm going to say it's really happening, meaning what? Where is the evidence that this thing is spreading in any kind of major way? COVID, I'm talking about, not the bird flu, the COVID thing. Is there any evidence of that? There's not 10 dead in Beijing, Hong Kong, Shanghai. Nobody's dead in Vietnam. Nobody's dead in Laos, neighboring countries. What the hell's going on?
Wait.
I had so little time to make that decision. I didn't have time to convene a board meeting or call experts for advice. There were 19,000 people sitting in an arena waiting to find out whether this game was going to happen.
The game tonight has been postponed. You are all safe. And take your time in leaving the arena tonight.
The word that just came out just moments ago is the NBA is going to temporarily suspend the season from now.
There's a shot that stands out.
Oh, so March the 11th, the NBA announces, yeah, we're going to suspend the whole season. What the hell happened overnight that the NBA would do something like that?
Who was sitting courtside one of the games, and clearly he gets a text message.
You could see right here the reaction from Mark Cuban.
This is crazy. This can't be true. I mean, it's not within the realm of possibilities. It seemed more like out of a movie than reality.
This will put a human face on it, okay? Tom Hanks just tweeted. He and his wife, Rita, are in Australia.
The actor Tom Hanks and his wife, Rita Wilson, are currently in a Gold Coast hospital, and they have been diagnosed with coronavirus.
Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson.
Tom Hanks, his wife.
Now, there's only like 150 people in Australia who've been diagnosed with it so far. The fact that 2 of them would be 2 of the 150 people in all of Australia, The odds are like 1 in 700 million or something. It's like a ridiculous odds that both Tom Hanks and his wife would both have coronavirus. And the question is, where did they get these test kits? Did Australia have test kits before we did, and how did they get them? Who made them for them? Who was the manufacturer of these test kits?
Rita Wilson, they have tested positive for coronavirus. By the way, they are in our prayers tonight.
There was such a confluence of things in this country.
You almost felt like you were starting to go down a hill in a barrel a little bit.
And that sense of shock may have been necessary to pull people into this new reality.
All of a sudden, what seemed so far away in China or in Europe was incredibly clear that it was here. And even if you didn't believe it, then just looking around you, your world had changed forever.
It is Thursday, March 12th. The coronavirus has now entered a devastating new phase.
The U.S. death toll from the virus has surpassed 100 people.
20,000 more.
Whoa. Slow down, Tiger. Like, what the hell are they talking about? So as of March the 12th, so 2 days later, everything's red on the screen. Panic. And listen, what's said here?
Entered a devastating new phase.
We've entered a devastating new phase. What? There's still not 10 dead in Beijing, Shanghai, or Hong Kong. Still nobody dead in New York, Florida, or Texas.
U.S. death toll from the virus has...
Now, this is March 17th. This is after the president declares a national emergency and it's on. The cover-up is on. March 12th. Devastating. What is she talking about?
A devastating new phase.
U.S.
Devastating new phase.
Devastating new phase.
Global pandemic. 4,600 deaths across 116 countries. Wow, this sounds horrible. What about the fact that there's not 5 dead in Hong Kong? There's not 10 dead in Shanghai? That's not on the screen? Why is that?
U.S. death toll from the virus has surpassed 100 people.
20,000. More than 46,000.
150,000.
200,000.
400,000 people have now died from COVID-19.
500,071 dead.
Now, you tell me. What's that all about? As a result of what they showed the president on March the 10th, 5 years ago today, field hospitals are constructed all over the world, not just in the United States. Let's take a look. So it appears that what may have happened is that on March the 10th of 2020, NORAD and NASA showed President Trump a potential extinction level event and said, sir, we've got a plan. We can build field hospitals and pray, and that's about it. And we can cover it up with this Crimson Contagion story, the COVID thing. We're ready for that with the bird flu anyway. So it appears that's what happened on this day 5 years ago, hypothetically speaking. I'm John Cullen. Thanks for joining.
The night I laid my eyes on you, felt everything around me move. Got nervous when you looked my way, but you knew all the words to say. Then your love slowly moved right in. All this time, oh my love, where you been?
Right now, there is no other place I right now, watching the